There are many people that believe that a near-death experience is just the brain dying that's producing some chemical that's producing hallucinations.
Hey friends, Lacey Green here for D News. Near-death experiences have been described by people across the world who came or thought they were coming within an inch of their life. A new study has been published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences on NDEs. The study was done on rats and found that after cardiac arrest, there's this crazy spike in neural activity. The lead author says that, if anything, the brain is much more active during the dying process than even the waking state. So essentially, the neurons go into overdrive as death sets in, causing the brain to go haywire in a predictable way. Cue warmth, bright light, floating, etc.
I'm floating up into the sky and
there is an explosion of light and color.
And then I was just shot backwards at an incredible speed. Everything just went black and I just felt this backwards momentum while I feel like I'm being pressed in from all sides.
In that void, there was a voice, and the voice said, "Hey Quinn, I'm out here with you too." And I was like, what? I said, yeah, this is what unconditional love feels like. Love is the only thing that's real. I'm the only thing that's real. You need to go tell everybody that.
And I arrived in this really incredibly beautiful valley. It was just bright as anything. It was so vivid because the colors were just spectacular. I've never seen anything like it. And outside the house was my mum and my dog Butch, who died about 10 years ago. And I run up to my mum and I give her a big hug. I'm like, "I love you, Mum, I miss you." And she's like, "I love you too." And then I can feel myself getting pulled back into my body, and as I'm getting pulled, I'm like, "No, no, no." I remember saying, "No, no, no," and then
it's as though this place is saturated in meaning and beauty and significance and love in a way that is truly impossible to put into words. For me, there's this subjective feeling that was just undeniable, that this is a divine realm.
I shot out in the middle of this town, and I'm standing on this street that I don't recognize. And almost the moment that I start looking around, a friend of mine pops into my head. He's a guy that used to be in a band, used to play guitar with me a few years ago. And cancer took him a couple of years back. And the moment that I thought about him, here he comes walking down the street. And he looked just the same as he used to.
This is more so of a knowing. So I knew what this voice was. I already knew, like I'm familiar with it. And it was God. It was the voice of God that spoke to me and said, "Hey, yo, this is unconditional love. No matter how far you think you've gone, I'm still right there with you."
So how do you feel about scientists saying that these experiences are nothing but chemical reactions in the brain and there's no spiritual aspect to it at all? You may be surprised. I want to show you the context of these experiences.
Today's video is going to be about astral projection.
In this video, I'm going to be sharing 10 lessons that I learned from taking DMT, dimethyltryptamine. For those of you who may not know, DMT is one of the most powerful psychedelic substances that we know of.
Today I just wanted to share one of my most recent projections with you all.
Welcome back to that God Power channel. This is the channel where we're going to unlock the God Power that's laying dormant inside of you. But first, today, I want to talk about something that was really special and life-changing for me. And DMT is what I'm talking about. Dimethyltryptamine is what it's called.
So I've smoked DMT about 4 or 5 times. I take 2 giant hits and I'm instantly beamed out of my body. I recently made an entire video about how to have a mystical experience and connect to the spirit realm using psychedelic substances.
DMT, and you saw the title, it's about God. God is here within all of us. He's watching everybody every minute of the day. There's an eye on you all the time, and he told me, don't stop these journeys. Don't stop your enlightenment on these journeys. Now you've reached the kingdom of the gates and you took the path to walk through these doors. Now it's time to learn and teach and to maybe enlighten others to do the same.
I think my lesson that I learned from this just half experience is don't forget the pain and welcome new pain, because as soon as pain hits you, there's love right after, no matter what.
I took 2 really big hits
and immediately I could tell something was different. I don't feel my body, I don't feel the world that I am laying on the bed in. I'm at this new world as this new form. At first it's really, really fast. I'm just whizzing through this tunnel, and I keep thinking I'm just gonna pop out, but I don't. Eventually the tunnel just gets wider and wider and wider until it opens up into this big canyon. And the first thing I see is another ball of light off in the distance, and I go, holy, I remember you from back before I was a human.
So as you can see, none of the clips that you saw were actually near-death experiences. They were either New Age astral projection practices or a trip from smoking DMT. Characteristics they both have in common are leaving the body, going towards a bright white light, and even meeting dead family members or God himself or herself. We can see how deceptive this can be. So how can we trust any near-death experience? I see people buying into these near-death experiences because it's just such a fascinating experience that no one could even imagine. But I believe there is a connection between drugs and the spiritual world. In Revelation 18 verse 23 it says, "For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." That word sorcery is the Greek word pharmakia, where we get our word pharmacy from. And I do believe that tampering with pharmakia or sorcery is an open invitation for Satan and demons to deceive people. So now listen to these near-death experiences and see if there's any common attribute between them.
But then I felt myself leave the body. I then started to see this light that was incredibly bright.
He proceeds to tell my grandma how while he was being operated on, he floated out of his body, he saw them operating on him, and he floated 4 floors. How he floated up, 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 and how the roof of the hospital opened up and he floated up past the universe into the sky, up into the most beautiful, beautiful environment.
That's when I got to see heaven.
But you left your body. You didn't die. Left your body.
Yeah. I could look down and I could see my body, and then I could see my mom in one room, and she was on the phone talking and praying. Then my dad was in another room, and he was praying and yelling at the same time.
I was aware of everything that was going on around me. I was aware of what everyone was doing, my family, and how distressed they were. I was aware of what the doctors were doing in the hospital. When I was in that realm, I was given a choice of whether to come back into physical life or not.
I literally went from inside my body, and when I shut my eyes, I was then just the next second I was up on the ceiling looking down at the entire room.
The feeling like nothing she'd ever known.
There was this feeling of a presence that was next to me. It felt like it was God. It felt so loving and so accepting.
Sherry was dead for 90 minutes. But miraculously came back to life and now has a profound near-death experience to share.
And I remember my body just floating in like this white space. And I felt as light as a feather. I felt free. I literally was in a whole other realm. So I was no longer in the physical hospital room. I was completely in another realm. I actually felt connected to my family on the other side, and I felt connected to the heavens.
Sort of like passing out, except you pass kind of up. It's just a lot of white light, and you see people that have passed on, and they talk to you, and then you pop right back into your body, and you're awake. And you have I had an incredible sense of well-being, in a sense that it's just so near. It's not a far away or scary thing.
He was down for close to 45 minutes.
During which time, he claims he traveled beyond this world and back.
Well, he was telling me that he loved me and that he'd seen the light and that he had seen my mom and my dad. And I lost it at that point in time because I just lost my mom.
The week after burying his mother-in-law.
Notice most, if not all, near-death experiences happen in a hospital while someone is pumped full of pharmaceutical drugs. I believe these visions that patients are experiencing are a deception. And here's why. Because John 3:13 says, "And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven." See, the Bible tells us that when we die, we will be asleep in Jesus, and when Christ comes back, the dead in Christ shall rise first, put on immortality, and be caught up to meet the Lord in the air. All of God's people will get to witness going to heaven at one time. What an exciting experience it'll be. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, click the note card above right now.